Hey everybody, Rhadamant here. Thanks for tuning in to Frost and Fire. Last episode was a relatively peaceful one. I had two comments I wanted to highlight. Tom Q asked me to include a mod that I made myself, which is that I suppress the noise that you hear when I change times. I have a habit of changing times a lot, so I can understand that that would be an annoying thing to have to listen to continually. And Stargate Productions was the first one to mention this, so I will credit him with the idea of setting up a lot of spike traps and uninstalling them ready for reinstallation when we want to reset our sort of deadfall trap area. If I have enough spike traps, one of the things that we might be able to do is to lighten up our use of ammunition for the turrets and just use the deadfall traps instead, routing enemies, closing this door and routing enemies through this pathway. Now there's only 21 traps, so if there's maybe 15 enemies or greater, the traps of course are not going to stop everybody, but it's a thought. So I will get that underway. Other things that I need to do. If I made another prestige cataphract helmet, I would be essentially out of gold. I was hoping to ground penetrating radar scan for gold, but that's going to require Raptor to spend considerable time on the ground penetrating scanner. You know, the chance for gold is rather slim. So here's what I'm going to do instead. The steel that was previously up here, instead I'm going to do a stockpile of just traps. Let's call it deadfall traps, because that's what's going here. And we will clear all, put preferred. Deadfall traps are buildings. What is it? Special? No, it's not special. It would be security and spike traps. And that way we will store spare deadfall traps out there. And anytime these are created, I will just uninstall them and move them. So one thing that I'm sort of curious about is, well, what will be the danger this episode? Generally speaking, Randy throws us a lot of combat, and he spent none of the time last episode trying to fight us. Oh, another thing I wanted to address is the quest that I turned down, the Prisoner Hartman. So the reason I turned this down, let me be perfectly clear. The infinite chem reactor is quite a nice thing to have. However, it does require power and it does work relatively slowly. And then the reason why the Architect Eye is really not that much of a benefit is most things in this game max out at about 120% vision benefit or 110% vision benefit, meaning that given that everybody in my colony already has bionic eyes, there would be barely any benefit whatsoever to having an Architect Eye. Yes, I perhaps could sell it, but given the cost of hosting 14 people for how long was it? 14 people for 14 days or 15 people for 14 days. I would make more money not taking the quest than taking the quest. So there were people that pointed out that I could have the cataphracts eat nutrient paste meals and all that. In my experience with guests, particularly with royal guests, they are fussy and they will complain about everything possible. And as a net result, I would just end up with a bunch of cataphracts going on mental breaks, perhaps trashing the base a bit. Not something I am absolutely not willing to subject myself to. So as a result, I will not be taking that quest for all reasons mentioned. I thought I explained it pretty well when the quest arose, but I wanted to make it clear that an Architect Eye would be a virtually useless upgrade for me, and an infinite chem reactor, given my excess of vegetables, wouldn't be all that useful either. I don't use a lot of chem fuel in this series, and that's because there isn't much to shell, and there's almost nowhere to transport pod, so chem fuel's just not particularly useful to me. So what I could do instead of the prestige cataphract helmets is to start making the normal ones. So if you take a look at the normal ones, it's an advanced component and 50 plasteel, and I could make up to 5. Now, the advanced components, to make the helmets, are going to require a little bit of gold from, you know, to make the advanced components, but it's not like the 90 gold per helmet that Raptor is currently wearing, because that is a mite bit more expensive, I would say. All right, animals. For the restricted animal hauling, I think what I'm going to do is paint this zone and this zone, forcing them to path through here, so that my pets can help haul these deadfall traps, and that would be most useful. Pretty soon here, it will become temperate again, meaning that I might be able to call in you know, an ally caravan of goods. Hopefully, ideally, time will tell. But if I did that, I'd likely want to make sure that they probably pre-prepare my entire base so that the only valid entry points is north and south, and then hoping that the caravan did not arrive upon the mech clusters that I have out here. I don't want to get them killed. I'd like to avoid that, if possible. All right, Raptor, you are scanning, and I basically have a guaranteed find in just minutes here. I've scanned almost 100%. So we'll find something. I don't know what the something will be, but we'll find something. Another thing I might want to do is to allow the deep drilling. Oh, we found some steel. Not inconveniently placed, but steel is really not that sexy of a resource. We do have a little bit of uranium left over here, and I wouldn't mind Gabe mining it. So I'm going to put Gabe back on high priority mining, and then Leth here still has high priority mining, but I don't want Leth to mine here. It's too bad I can't have a skill minimum. Yeah, here comes Leth trying to mine the deep drill. The reason I don't want it, and I should explain, if we take a look at the mining yield, Leth only gets 92% mine yield, which means that, in effect, for the amount of uranium that is inside that deep drill, Leth doesn't get full, full credit, or whatever you want to call it. So instead, I'm going to force mine a whole bunch of the mountains here, causing Leth to have to level up a bit. And Gabe, he's hauling spike traps. Now, Gabe, I can force to mine the deep drill, just ordering directly. But the order of priorities that characters will have will be to dig non-deep drill stuff, and then if there is no non-deep drill stuff tasks left to do, they will prioritize regular mining. Oh my god, Gabe. I'm going to forbid these doors if you keep resetting. Alright, enjoy being locked in there, buddy. Kept ordering to go for the deep drill, and well, he kept resetting and going straight back for to help Leth on the, mining out the slag mountain. And all I'm doing here is trying to mine up everything that is an overhead mountain. Alright, and the base springs back to life. And Phoenix is wearing the first cataphract helmet. Now, these cataphract helmets, this one is only normal quality, but it's still 120 sharp compared to the 4% sharp of the hat that he was wearing. Now, the only problem with this is it lowers the heat protection. But the thing about the heat protection is we're heading towards fall, towards autumn, so it's not that big of a deal. All right, Gabe's gonna have to go to sleep, being a night owl schedule, and maybe not. Yeah, there you go, resting. And I'm hoping that Raptor is able to find some gold, because we are a little bit material restricted to gold at the moment. I'm also going to start doing small sculptures over large ones. Small ones are more bang for your buck, and I mention this constantly, but more bang for your buck when it comes to trade goods. You can get more money per material, per effort, than large sculptures. It is better than grand or large in that regard. Now Gabe has another cataphract helmet. An excellent quality one. And checking your needs. Yeah, you're gonna be locked in here. I want Leth to primarily be the one to mine out the sides of mountains. So you have food on you? Yep, you do. Okay. Rebel farmers. We have lowered our reputation with them, which is fine. It's well above allied, so not much issue there. Gabe is a little upset due to a lack of recreation, but you'd really think that all my people by now would be used to it, given that I am constantly under threat of death, and they would be used to just, oh, I don't get to recreate. I just have to survive. So Hippie wears the next helmet. Which is fine. I think I'm going to make up to 6. Allow Hippie to wear a normal one and then have a normal one spare when I have enough gold for a prestige one. Hippie being a Psycaster, of course. So Gabe has almost mined up all the uranium in this node. And this is mostly for slug turret reloading. Now, there was a bit of a question that you all had about, am I going to add more turrets in? And yes, I indeed plan to add more turrets, especially when it comes down to defending against the reactor raids. And I might also add in some additional deadfall trap tunnels so that I can fall back. Essentially, let me explain. If my turrets over here get overwhelmed and my defenses get overwhelmed and basically I have to fall back into my base, it would be good to have a sort of a tunnel or a pathway that enemies would then attack through, that I could force them to pass through, that would be full of deadfall traps. And that way, if I needed a fallback plan, a fallback area, I'd be able to fall back to have, enemies get deadfalled. Which could be a lifesaver. And given my current steel surplus, it's really not going to be all that expensive to set that up. It's more expensive than the cost of life of not having one. So here we go. We are setting more deadfall traps up. And then the tunnel that I would want would probably be... what kind of stone do I have? I have mostly slate. So let's do slate. It'd be something like this, where we would have a steel door like this and like that. Where we can close this steel door and force enemies to pass through a deadfalled area. And then deadfalls... like this, where they would be otherwise then forced to march through a long line of deadfall traps to get to me as a method of defense. Something along those lines. So let's set up deadfall rearming doors. So that we don't have to step over. And this is a relatively expensive investment project, but one that might keep us alive. So, and I'm trying to avoid the pipes, so that we can rearm it a little bit more easily. I probably don't have enough slate for all this, but that's fine. And then another thing that I could do is to set up these turrets to shoot anyone coming out here. Basically, the idea is this is the Alamo. So something like this to stop anyone from standing on this. They have to then get kicked out and get no cover. Ideally, it would be a flat wall like that. Maybe with a door that goes through. So expensive, but another sort of failsafe, another fallback point that might be crucial when it comes time to defending our reactor, because we will eventually get to a reactor defense, and we're going to want every possible trick up our sleeve to survive such an event. A psychic soothe ended, so a psychic drone for males kicked off. I don't know. I don't know if I'm actually going to do anything to counteract it. I don't think I will. What I could do is set up fine meals for everybody temporarily. All right, Mr. Gabe. All these new cataphract helmets have somewhat depleted my plasteel, but I have a note of plasteel here that I will tap into. Okay, we have a lot of spare deadfall traps now. I took that advice very seriously. We have 35 over there. And I think there's only 15 or so that are installed. Well, let me double check. Oh, that's kind of hard to check. 21. So we have almost enough to rearm twice, which is pretty good. We're going to have some mental breaks coming up, or close to mental breaks, given the current psychic droner. So Bash is getting awfully close. The terrible speech, certainly not helping. Gabe, of course, is cyclically dull. He doesn't even know that there's a droner going on, so. Plus, he's in a new relationship, and that's been going well for him, so he is fine. Raptor, despite being hypersensitive and in prestige armor, is surprisingly okay. And other than the psychic droner, Randy, surprisingly enough, is not throwing many punches, but I think every time I say that, it is a jinx. And it gets Randy to be like, oh, you want something worse? So maybe something worse is coming. That would be the pattern. And is this it? Pods and insects. All right. So infestation of 45 hives. A legendary charge rifle and gold seems to probably be the reward I'd be looking at. If I am to accept this, I want to accept this as late as possible so that it gets cold. I would love for the insects to freeze out and die on their own. That would be great. So this is, I think, the last portion that Gabe is going to mine out. And then this deep drill will be exhausted. There it is, exhausted. Let's move this deep drill over here where the plasteel is. And now there's not much of a reason to even have a turret here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to secure the area a little bit better. So I will remove these, uninstall this heater and uninstall this light and leave the turret in. So we have 2 turrets covering this hallway, but digging and removing the wall and digging this deep metal so that the turret has better coverage. Both turrets have coverage. Okay, Bash. Oh boy. You are headed to, oh, Slaughterer. Words of Serenity. Whew. Timing on that was a little close. Trying to go for Cauterize. Just a little close there. I'm going to leave the blade forbidden. So he's going to be in a psychic coma a little while. But good timing. Raptor. Now get your... hopefully Raptor gets his Psi focus back up. Let's break down these walls. And... I was worried about what mental break it might be. Slaughterer is a pretty bad one. That is a bad mental break. And if you check his needs, he did get Catharsis, and hopefully the psychic drone will be gone by the time he comes to and wakes up. Looks like my potato plants are ready to go. Gabe, you are going to be taken off of mining in lieu of farming. Okay, so he is eating a fine meal and grabbing his blade, drinking a beer, and hopefully not trying to kill my pets anymore. 'Tis the hope. Another thing I'd like to do is to run power in my walls here, like this, and then move my batteries inside my stockpile so that they might be more secured. I'm going to wall them into their own physical area. That way that they can't be targeted for pod droppers very easily. You know, it's unlikely that a pod drop lands directly inside my base or something like that. It's possible. It's just less likely. So trying to think of the way to do this best. It's going to be best if I have a door here like that. Slags and mech. Let's put that zone back out here. And then what we'll do is we'll run run power through the front, where the switches are here and here. We can prop these doors open, likely. There, something like that. The place where the batteries are going to go are going to have to get moved a little bit. And I'm going to set up one side and then charge them and set up the other so I don't have any power disruptions. All right, circuit drone is ending. That will help out a lot. My guys were at each other's throats. So the restricted hauling, I'm going to update to not allow them in the power room because my pets really don't need to go in there. I suppose I'm going to get rid of priority hauling and animal unrestricted. I don't really need it, so let's just forego. How many traps do I have here now? 40. So if I had 42 traps, it would be enough to fully rearm twice. So I'm going to add 2 more traps and call it good. I'll have some spare traps set up in my stockpiles and the like. But now Bash is... hopefully Phoenix... Yeah, Phoenix's mood will be recovering too. So now Bash is... you know, getting this deadfall trap alternative path set up. Oh, I didn't mean to uninstall those. I meant to toggle auto rearm. A very opposite sort of task there. All right, Gabe, you are replanting. That's good. That's a lot of potatoes. Yeah, I'm going to want auto rearms so that we automatically rearm it if it's triggered. And then it needs to be on home zone. All these doors are so that we can rearm it safely. And we'll get that little project finished up. Mining 7. So if you take a look at mining here, I believe it's level 8 that gets full yield. Yes. Level 7 gets you up to 98%. As you can see here, site manipulation only goes up to 100% max. So once you have full site manipulation, it's all up to skill. So it's not like you can use bionic arms or bionic eyes or something like that to get better at mining. It's just you are the skilled that you are for the most part, unless you have some sort of physical disability. So I believe that this is the last Cataphract's helmet. It is. I have literally just enough gold to make a prestige one. Well, no, that's not even true, because I don't have enough gold to make advanced components for the prestige one. But now everybody's in Cataphract helmets, and we are setting up our battery room. And the mechs out here are just still hanging out. Not doing much. Not much of a threat to me either, so they'll hang out for a bit longer. This turret here is going to need to be nudged. In fact, it should be nudged maybe here. So it has better sight lines. And finally, we'll have a proper place for our batteries, where they do not get destroyed. I think... Oh, a flash drum. I think I might run out of slate for this construction project, so if that is the case, I'm going to have to switch stones, block types. No, maybe I'll have just enough. I won't have enough for repairs, though. And then these two doors help determine whether enemies are going to take the long path through all the deadfalls or the shorter path straight to the turrets. I'm going to probably want more backup turrets than this. So initially what I'm going to have is... Ooh, that should not be roofed. initially what I'm going to have is is the short path selected. Essentially, don't go through deadfalls by default. Let's break these switches down. Gabe, what are you working on? You are just hanging out. Is Randy really going to let me have just another episode of peace? It'd be really, really, really strange. So now, let's move the other batteries down. And I did include a little bit of a path. As you can see, it's wider than the batteries themselves so that we can more easily repair. So that I don't have to stumble and whatnot to try to repair things. So here, you can see the switches work. The batteries are plugged in. And we'll break these down and move them as well. So we have our deadfall path. We have spare deadfall traps. We've got, I suppose I should start deep drilling the steel, or the plasteel. Let's see. Yep. I'm going to lock Gabe in there because he's going to prioritize mountains over deep drills. Leth should be pretty close to full yield. No, you're not that close. 2,000 at 8,000. Well, you're working on it. But once she gets full yield, we'll be able to not have to micromanage who's on deep drill and who's not, which is arguably a little annoying or whatever. Having to micromanage that. We're almost done moving all the batteries. There's the last one, and now we can remove the switches, and that is all set. As you can see, my steel amount has gone from like 5,500 to 2,000 pretty quickly, but a lot of that is just the preparation. So in raw resources, I'm also going to allow spike traps, just for somewhere to put these extra traps that I have. One could argue that I could line up extra traps next to this deadfall path, but given that this area is so close physically, I don't think it's much of an issue to store it just over yonder. So the quest, 4.5 more days. Now the issue with this is in 4.5 days, it's not going to be significantly cold. So the infestation swarms are likely to be disruptive and dangerous to us. So if we do want to select that quest, 45 hives is a ridiculous amount of hives, mind you. I mean, we're talking probably 200 bugs or so. So another thing I could do in preparation for that, and I mentioned this, is work on incendiary shells. So let's make up until I have 20 incendiary shells, and crank out 10 incendiary traps, so that we can booby trap the tunnels where the bugs might spawn. So what I'll do here is create some walls in order to compartmentalize the area so that it's easier to get it lit and easier to cause fires that might heat stroke out bugs. I think this area, this cave network, is probably the most likely to be infested because it is dark opposed to the rest of the caves. And then what I'll do is just, I know it seems odd, but create like sort of just sort of walls as ignition sources so that they can light up on fire. And whoa, sorry, Gabe. What I'll try to do is I'll prep for this infestation in 4 days, or that I'll be accepting potentially in 4 days, as best as I can. All right, when we make the incendiary shells, let's take them to the temp shells so that we don't have to run around so much. Speaking of running around, I think what I'll do is in temp shells, I will temporarily, this is dangerous, mind you, but temporarily allow the manufactured chem fuel so that we don't have to walk so much. So this chem fuel is important. Let's drop that down to normal. And then we'll have chem fuel right next to where we're making the shells so we can make the shells more quickly. Another thing I'm going to need to do is the stay fortified zone is going to require allowing my guys to enter this area. And to note, this isn't the only spot the infestation could spawn. They could spawn in these tunnels as well, but these tunnels already have pretty good ignition sources as they are full of power conduit. And I'm going to put ID traps in them as well. I won't neglect one part of the tunnel over the other. It would be in my best benefit to sort of IED trap a whole lot of stuff. So what I like to do is just to have some ignition sources around the trap itself, so that when the trap boom goes off, you end up with a situation where things can catch fire around it, and things can start heating up. I realized that initially I kind of wanted to wait until winter and just have the cold kill them, but the quest is going to expire well before that point, well before I'll be able to wait for winter. And given the quantity of bugs that are going to come out for this quest, it will be pretty easy to get them to just set traps off on their own. There's going to be so many bugs. We're also using up most of our chem fuel, so let's... Oh, we already have a chem fuel from organics. So what I'm going to do is suspend the small sculptures so that Hippie makes chem fuel for us. And here's a large sculpture I'm going to cancel out, even at cost of no refund, or fewer materials to refund. I've also gone through all these caves and tried, I just found a door that wasn't closed, but trying to close the doors so that if we do set incendiaries off, they have a chance to light up and heat stroke a smaller area. All right, Leth. About halfway to 8. Man, that has been a slog. That has taken a while. There's a lot of good slag, though. Lots of good slag. So your bash goes with some more incendiary mines. I'll be installing them, reinstalling them. So let's put one here. JD is cranking out the chem fuel. There, hauling it all. Good. And then we are building the traps. Psychoid plant blight. Oh, that's unfortunate. Mr. Gabe, I'm going to manually have you cut these plants so they don't spread to something more, to something else. And I'm just going to strategically place incendiaries sort of all over my tunnel network, or as much of my tunnel network as I think is safe. So that if they do spawn in these tunnels, which they most assuredly will, I can't imagine where else they would spawn, there's a chance to catch them on fire and to light them up. And then I'm going to need to order all my guys to close the doors that are, you know, propped open. They're kind of, think of them as like fire doors. They're basically fire doors. So I'm having Phoenix here just run through some of these doors to close them. Oh, here's a few more to close. And I'm also trying to set it up so that my own guys can't... my own guys aren't in a situation where they're going to step on these traps themselves. I don't want accidental self-triggered traps, right? I don't want to set my own on fire. So I'm making sure that they can easily path beyond where the traps are going to set. We are pretty low on nutrient paste. Noted. So I'm going to set this up to allow potatoes again. Copy and paste, paste. We've also cranked out all of the meat. So we have no more meat in the entire... Oh no, there's 51 gorilla meat that Raptor's sitting on. But basically we've used up all the meat. It's a pretty good case in point of... I've had people ask, hey, why don't you make more lavish meals? And it's simply because 99% of the time there are not wild animals on the map tiles, and the biome doesn't have a lot of animals. We tend to be manhunter attacked by things that cause foul meat. So good meat is very, very rare. It is very uncommon for us to have edibles that are not going to get everyone depressed or whatever. I'm going to have Raptor crank out a throne speech. Hopefully encouraging us this time, not a terrible speech. The terrible speech debuff should be, yeah, it is over now. And never mind. We are... Where is this landing? We should see shadows. Doesn't seem to be hippie. Phoenix. It is Phoenix, I think. Either way, this is another pod drop on us. Speech was canceled, obviously, because we are being assaulted. And it is 8 mechs. That is 3 attacks in a row where the enemies landed on us. Podding directly upon us. It's that's pretty unusual and pretty unlucky. But that's all right. We have Phoenix out here. It's funny that some of the drop pods look like my transport pods. They definitely can get confusing. All right, let's get everybody up here. And given the time on the clock, I think there should be time to clear this. 8. Yeah, these aren't particularly dangerous mechs. So we should be able to clear quickly. Except for, of course, JD's already had a finger shut off, which is fine, because we'll just make him another bionic arm. This is what we do. All right, if our shield belts just broke, let me stop tanking. Have them all crush themselves, and I'm gonna go around through my base. Okay, actually, no, I'm gonna stand my ground. Bash, you still have a shield belt. You push up. I don't want to keep tanking. Oh, Hippie took one. Raptor. And Hippie. Now these mechanoids are just a lot weaker when they're within melee range, except for the Scyther. So I'm having the Scyther do some of the dirty work. And all that we've got left now is this one pike. So I lost, oh, and the Lancer. I lost a finger, but that's about it. It's not too bad. They're all dead, and that is all the time I have. So hey, Randy tried to make it a cliffhanger, but I denied the cliffhanger. If you have any feedback for me about my preparations of defenses or any other suggestions at all, please let me know in the comments below. I'm happy to have them, and if I find them useful, I will name drop you, and thank you for your suggestions. So thank you this episode to Stargate Productions and Tom Q. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you next episode. Farewell, everybody.